Chapter 6. Maya and Brahman. Now try to notice the crust of consciousness, the pure knowledge, without the mixture of any objects. That space, which is lying between the eye and the moon, had not come to your notice, yet still it was there pervading, existing in its own nature. That is the pure form of knowledge. When empty space that is not noticed previously is purposefully made an object of attention, it becomes the object of attention as space. What can be noticed is Maya, and whatever cannot be seen is Brahman. While looking at the moon, the space in between did not come to your attention. Therefore, it is consciousness without an object. If this space is separated and is made an object of sight, this pure knowledge is transformed into emptiness. Because if space is seen separately, the modification of the mind becomes a void. If there is any difference between space and pure knowledge, it is this: to separately look at one's own nature is space. And when the looking is abandoned, it is pure knowledge. Once pure knowledge is recognized properly in this manner, even when mixed with any object, it can be selected and recognized. Once pure water is known, even when it is mixed with something else, its existence can be recognized within that mixture. Whatever is fluid that can become condensed into ice is water. Even when water gives up its fluidity and assumes the density of ice, it is still recognized as water in the form of ice. It is not difficult to recognize the wetness in mud as water. In a similar way, once pure knowledge is known, its steady existence in this moving world in the form of Sat Chit Ananda, or being consciousness bliss, can also be recognized. Pure water is devoid of any color, form, taste, or smell. Once this is properly understood, even when water is condensed to assume a dense form, or takes on a hot flavor by adding chilies, or a sweet flavor by adding sugar, or it becomes fragrant or takes on color such as rose, or is used as water in paint, still it is quite unmistakably recognized as pure water, or water minus the form, taste, smell, and color. Thus, by the same method of elimination, even when this pure knowledge is conditioned, by subtracting the conditioning and by dividing the form into its respective elements, it will be recognized as absolutely pure knowledge alone that fills all form everywhere to the brim. Yet before attaining this pure knowledge by the method of elimination, if someone accepts the method of listing the qualities of God and goes on chattering about how God alone pervades all beings and all forms, and that there is nothing else but God, Rama, and that the world and the Lord of the world are but one, then such babble can never be useful. In contrast to this type of chatter, if one speaks only empty words without having direct experience behind them, saying such things as I am Brahman, or the senses do their job, yet I am not the doer, or there is no sin or virtue at my doorstep. Instead of gaining the self, he will only deceive himself. In this way, these so-called self-discoverers lose the joy of this world as well as the joy of the self. Saint Kabir once said, "He went away as he came." This means that these people die in the same state of consciousness as that in which they were born. They get no benefit from life other than this. Such worldly scholars take words to be true self-knowledge, but has that truth which is beyond speech ever dawned on an ignorant man? Anyone can say, the senses do the work of the senses, but I am not the senses. Or they can say the mind's qualities are with the mind, and the body's qualities are with the body, but what have I to do with them? I am different from these. What is untrue about these utterances? Who is it that understands the truth? Who is it that has the experience of truth? Only the one who knows who he is. Of what use are such statements to another? Each one enjoys his own pleasures and bliss. Tukaram said, each one for himself. Even a parrot can be taught to repeatedly say the words, Brahman is truth and the world is only an appearance. However, one cannot say that the parrot has understood the truth of what Brahman is, or what the world is, or even what a statement of truth is. Where there is no understanding, there cannot be the bliss of self-knowledge. Let that be as it is. However, an aspirant should not follow the example of one who is an expert with words, yet is a hypocrite. With persistent study and by applying the method of elimination, one must first come to know what pure knowledge is. Knowledge is of different types, such as general and objective knowledge, of imagination and doubts, and the knowledge that is without any thought. The particular objective, imagining, and doubting types of knowledge are contradictory to pure knowledge. When pure consciousness, through the process of sight, takes the shape of an object, one gets objective knowledge, or knowledge which can be of a particular type, or an imagination type, or of a doubt type of knowledge. If any object is physically manifest, it is objective knowledge, or gross knowledge. If it is only an idea that is subtle, it is idea knowledge, or savikalpa. This means that when pure knowledge takes the shape of an object, an idea, or a thought, it then becomes categorized as a particular type of knowledge. And particular knowledge, being artificial, is by nature transient and lasts only for a very short period of time. It is inherently transient and of an unsteady nature. However, the rule is that particular knowledge must return back into general knowledge, the knowledge that I am. As an example, when we walk, this is considered the common or general speed, and when we increase the speed and start running, it becomes a particular speed. Yet how long can we run? After some time, the running stops, and soon one assumes the natural speed again. Similar to this, we are naturally very loving and blissful within, and this love within oneself is the general type of love common to all. However, when love is for a son, a friend, or a house, it is an objective and a particular kind of love. Thus, a love that comes must also go. The love that comes is of a particular kind, which is transient and destructible. The happiness that one gets from objects also falls into the category of being of a particular kind of happiness, which only lasts for a very short period of time, and may as well be called pleasure. A small thing brings in an experience of a particular type, but while our attention is focused on that, the one thing that pervades it cannot be experienced. The reason is that the pervading thing is big and infinite, and in reality we are that same all-pervading Brahman. The particular thing is Maya, illusion, and the general or common thing is Brahman, pure consciousness, and we are that. When we are focused on the experience of a particular type, we do not experience the love of our own self, nor do we enjoy the happiness of the bliss of the self. We will now observe what is called general knowledge, which is devoid of an object or idea. There is a slight distance between an outside gross object and the I or the mind. That void or space, although unknowingly observed, is as if it were not seen, and therefore we have no knowledge or acknowledgement of that space. This intervening knowledge, the space, being knowledge itself, cannot become the object of its own knowledge. How can sugar taste its own sweetness? In the same way, knowledge does not experience itself as an object. This knowledge is naturally spread out between the I and the object, as well as between the intellect and an idea or thought. One should repeatedly take notice of how this general pure knowledge or pure awareness naturally pervades everywhere before it acknowledges or recognizes an object. This noticing or seeing is not the same as seeing an object such as I am the seer of an object or I am the thinker of an idea. It is only seen when one gives up both the seeing as well as the thought that I am the seer. The instrument of seeing is the I, and the instrument of knowing a thought is the intellect. Knowledge itself can only be seen by setting aside both of these instruments. The instruments of sight and the intellect are of no value here. Any attempt to know pure knowledge by means of the I, the physical I, or the intellect is to forget that pure knowledge, the unadulterated sense of I am, by allowing these instruments to step in. To know pure knowledge really means not to know it. And once known in this way, the knower himself becomes pure knowledge. Samartha Ramdas has said, "In trying to meet pure knowledge, one becomes separated from it. But there is always union with it without trying to meet it." This puzzle is very difficult. Wise men, yogis, and renunciates make a mistake and misinterpret the seen as the seer when saying Param Atman is like this, with hands and it has the light of 1,000,000 suns and luster and dark complexion. They say whatever they like, but by whose knowledge is it that it is stated that this one is like this and the other one like that? that one is forgotten completely while they talk of the great things of realization. However, when the seer is forgotten, whatever is seen is I, which is Brahman. One does not know what to say of this. The brave one sets out to find Brahman, but the obstacle in the form of the seen gets in his way. And this is the state of the majority of seekers. The search for the lost I. In a crowd during a pilgrimage, I lost myself and could not find myself, even when I tried searching within. Then I went to the police station and gave them the information that I was lost. At that time, a constable came and slapped my cheeks very hard until they were red and asked me, "Who is this fellow?" Only then did I become conscious of myself and was very happy that I was found. This is the very condition of the one that is himself Brahman and yet is in search of Brahman. Where and how can Brahman find itself? This exact position is that Brahman is the one who knows everyone, but is not known by anyone. The one who tries to know Brahman does not know that his own true nature is pure consciousness or Brahman itself. So he wanders about in the forest and jungle, searching for that which has never been lost. How amazing this is! How can Brahman, the one who is known only after the capacity of knowing has been transcended, be known? Unless one becomes steady within oneself, leaving behind having the desire to know, one cannot have the knowledge of Brahman. There is a story of one foolish fellow who wanted to know what sleep was. Whenever he would start to doze off, he immediately would remember, "Aha, now I will catch sleep." With that thought, he would clap his hands and suddenly become completely awake. Repeatedly doing this, the poor fellow became tired and fell asleep, and entirely gave up his efforts of trying to catch sleep. In a similar way, trying to know Brahman is the same thing. When one gives up trying to know Brahman, one becomes Brahman itself. When the gross physical and subtle bodies are negated, the instruments of the mind and intellect are broken up. The aspirant then goes to the state of the causal body, which is the state of forgetfulness, the deep sleep of ignorance. This itself is the ignorance of the human being. To eradicate this ignorance, it is necessary to acquire the knowledge of Brahman. Therefore, the aspirant tries to get the knowledge of Brahman with the help of the subtle intellect and that part of consciousness that is pure knowledge. Sri Shankara has called such a man a great fool. If one tries to know Brahman in this manner, with the subtle intellect, the subtle body will only go on increasing. When the subtle body gets destroyed and one comes to the causal body, the one who is trying to know Brahman with the subtle intellect does not become steadied in the causal body. Instead, he gets pushed back to the subtle body with the force from the causal body, and once again comes under the sway of imaginings and concepts, desires and doubts. If an aspirant dreams, employing the use of words or the mind, he will never progress to where speech and mind cannot enter. Instead, he will go to a lower plane. The aspirant cannot remain as an aspirant, but has to become one who is accomplished, a siddha. For this, one has to cross over the steps of all of the four bodies. By constant study, one has to enter on the platforms of the four bodies and clean and clarify them through thorough investigation, vichara, self-inquiry, and deduction. Only then can the truth of the self be invoked and become fully established. Once this is done, it is certain that the aspirant will become a siddha. Up to this point, the four bodies and the method of study has been clarified. The aspirants must also have understood what has been presented. By way of analogy, if a wooden stool with four legs made in the form of the bodies has been constructed, it is still very crude. In order to make it shine properly, more effort has to be made. It is necessary to polish it in order to make it shine so that it can throw off its own light. The procedure for making something is quite different from the procedure of scrubbing and cleaning, thereby making it absolutely smooth and appealing. Unless it has been manufactured in that finished condition, it will not be considered finished, nor will it return a fair price. Therefore, before becoming a siddha, with perfect and pure knowledge, we must be aspirants for some time, persistently polishing the pure knowledge of the great causal body. It must be made completely clean.